daily outlook for Wednesday, April 22nd. Start from a daily chart, see what's happening inside of the range, what happened on Monday, what happened on Tuesday. Obviously, Monday was an inside bar inside of Friday's range. Tuesday, yesterday, ended up trading above the high, creating a divergence at the range high. It also created a divergence at the previous day's low, which is Monday's low. And so far it has expanded from the open inside of premium levels, currently trading inside the previous day's wick. I'm not sure how long this will last. Right? We'll look at, meaning I believe that eventually there's going to be a wick created through here. Right? It doesn't have to be today, but can happen some other time this week, tomorrow, Friday, all depending on today's profile. Likely this will be revisited since price is overall ranging. If we look at a 4-hour chart, obviously we can see the range here. Right, price expanded, is now ranging inside of premium levels. If we put up the standard deviations from the previous week's profile, right, we can see that price may want to push higher, right? One final expansion inside around 27,200, above 27,000, right? An expansion above 27,000 to then maybe, I assume, return back inside of the range, right? I'm not sure how sustainable these rallies without retracements are sustainable, but the market will do what the market does, right? And the objective is not for me to look to call highs, but rather to be ready to anticipate them if they are to happen, right? And so when obviously the narrative is right, the narrative of the monthly profile, the weekly profile, time of day, time of week. Right, so far it has created, you can see the order blocks being created around the standard deviations. Right, and so this here, which is the PDA of interest for the week, right, as represented by the profile of this curve, right, which is the previous weekly range. Right, you can see we have an order block sitting at 25% of the previous week's range. So key order block that still hasn't been traded inside of. Right, so overall on the weekly profile, we do have a double bottom sitting below the weekly open. Price has been made jagged above the highs, right, through the divergence, but I wouldn't be surprised, at least if it were to trade higher first, that is going to come back inside of the range before trading higher. And that's simply because, sure, there's a divergence at the range high, but there's not really any strong close above here. I suspect that the market could want to reach one last time above it, create some kind of 3 drives, to then send it back in the range. Or if from these levels it were to directly trade inside of this order block, then that's where we have to be attentive as to how it trades to determine how the rest of the weekly profile will look like. Right, and at what time of day it trades inside of here for the daily profile. If we move to a 3-day look back perspective, right, price is inside of a range, the range of Friday's low to previous day's high. Right, price opens and price opened and is currently expanding inside of premium levels. Right, on this side of the curve, which we'll analyze in a second, we'll see where currently we have the PDA of interest. If we look at the profile of the curve of the 3-day look back, we can see that overall price has spent the most amount of time inside of the range around the new week opening gap. That's where price spent the most amount of time, meaning that's where the order blocks are formed. Right, although price is high resistance, we can see how yesterday interacted, had a beautiful interaction with the order block of Monday. So let's see where the PDA of interest for the day will be by analyzing the previous day's range. First of all, the previous day range here being a New York reversal profile, but one that saw a PM reversal, right? So currently price is expanding off that reversal. We can see that price spent the most amount of time in the range, essentially at 50% of the range, right? And so this also gives me the PDA of interest for the day, which is the bullish order block. Right at the open today, we had a closure above this down close candle, creating an order block. Since it's such a large candle, I suspect that just its wicks will be enough to determine the order flow. If price were to break the wicks, then that's when I'll start implementing the entire range. That will all depend on the profile of day, which, well, what can be some scenarios. So far, the weekly profile to me is likely looking like a seek and destroy, right? So it's not, again, it's not that because I'm biased for that if it trades higher, right, that I need to be short. But since I'm anticipating a scenario, a consolidation profile for the week, if I were to see my divergence happen at key highs or key lows in alignment with a specific daily profile, such as a classic expansion profile, a reversal profile, right, then that can provide good trading opportunities, good day trading opportunities. So swing to Z is likely. What else is likely? Could it be Tuesday high of week? It's possible, but if this would have been, a classic sell week, in my opinion, uh, price wouldn't have seen this type of reversal higher inside of the range. I have a feeling that this is a bit too extended, and so I believe that the previous day's low should be fine. This doesn't mean that price could trade lower. I believe that because it's such a large order block inside of the range, that price will have a hard time, right? Because yes, here there's a double bottom, but there's also a divergence. So anything where coming inside New York is going to be important to see if price already interacted with this PDA, and if it did, how did it react to it? Right? Did London, say, create the low of day inside of the order block, right? The range of the order block. Currently, the daily open here is inside of the wick itself. Right? It's sitting right at the upper quadrant of it. So it's going to be interesting to see the reaction when the price starts trading at these levels, right? Does it use it? Let's say now Asia consolidates and London manipulates into that for it to trade higher. Then how does New York react around these highs? Does it have expansion? Does it have divergences? Does it create high resistance price action? Or if London were to create a divergence at these levels and breaks the structure, right, likely this here will be a good PD rate to interact with for New York in terms of shorts in the 10 a.m. 4-hour power of 3. Right, likely 10 a.m. either cuts through the range, depending on how depending on the profile of day, essentially. Right, if London makes the high above and rejects, then I think there's enough of a range to trade, at least until the wick low of the order block. Right, and from there could be high resistance. But if New York is the one that creates the resistance, right, then that can lead something like another extended type of consolidation, right? It can be a swing to Z, It could be still a reversal, but one that ends up closing back in the range. Uh, that's the thing. The thing is, there's so many options because it's a consolidation phase, right? I can come up with so many scenarios, but what matters is what happens in the moment and where we previously come from in New York. All right, overall, we have the highs, the lows, and the bullish order block. Right, those are the levels to keep in mind for tomorrow, and then analyze in time uh, where is price at.